Indiana Jones, It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. Indiana Jones Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute. This is the podcast where we pass through the film Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, one device of lethal cunning at a time. I'm Tom Taylor.
I'm Pete Mubbert.
I'm Gerald Christopher St. Lazarus Zagraphos. He defended sacred images against the iconoclasts.
Oh.
You see, Tommy, during the reign of Theophilos, he forbade sacred imagery. But Lazarus, this Lazarus cat, he stubbornly kept painting.
Oh.
Yes, and so he was threatened with death, and he didn't care. And blah, 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 blah. There's a whole thing on the internet. Anyway, he was, of course, the first saint to be canonized specifically as an iconographer. Porter.
That's interesting, though, because he's kind of a middle finger to the Orthodox Church, which is kind of a commentary on the whole Crusades.
No, it's true. You know what? I will say this. For anybody who has any interest in anything, read about the lives of the saints. It gets really weird. And they're all like, it's exactly what you said. It's a lot of middle fingering going on. You know, this guy, which is so weird. You have a guy, Theophilos, who, you know, that whole like iconoclast thing, it's like, for, 800 years or 600 years, it's let's paint Jesus everywhere. And then it's like, no. We can't show, an image. So then they start defacing all the imagery and, kind of like the whole thing with that happened in Hagia Sophia, didn't it, Pete?
Yeah, I think that was one of the main things that caused the split between the Eastern and Western Church, right? Was the iconoclasm controversy.
Yeah, well, here we go. Lazarus Zagraphos is right in the middle.
What
and
year?
They canonized him.
Yeah, what year?
It was like 826-ish, 829.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. He really here's what's funny. He really, really was a great painter, and they thought he was so good that it was a talent bestowed to him by God. And I thought, well, so who has a talent that's not bestowed by God?
Oh.
Like, why is Lazarus any different? He's just a great painter.
It's all
and
very
stubborn. Yeah, his stubbornness was bestowed by God, too. That's how... Anyway, who's our guest?
Porter.
Yeah. Porter.
Porter. That's my cue. Hello, I'm Mitch Brian. I'm from Alien Minute Podcast, and... I don't know, other things. The University of Missouri, Kansas City, where I teach film studies and screenwriting.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Welcome back, Mitch.
Yeah.
It's nice to be back.
We haven't seen you since the deserts of Tanis.
I know. I totally missed Temple of Doom. I just didn't get to go to India at all.
Well, we brought back some souvenirs and stuff.
Oh, good.
We brought you doggy
brains
back,
for
too.
you.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're glad to have you with us in this dark and spooky cave.
You gave me an awesome minute. I love this minute, so thank you.
Oh, sure.
Oh, good.
I have no idea if you're being sarcastic or not.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Right.
I'm not. I have up and down feelings about this movie. I think that Gerry said it best, as is so often the case, when he was talking about the fact that it keeps going two different ways, and and it is, on one hand, it's a comedy, and those two comedic gold guys, Lucas and Spielberg, because I think Lucas and Spielberg and I think comedy, so it has this kind of comedic tin ear a lot of the time, I think.
Yeah.
And then when it's firing on all cylinders, it's great. And sometimes I almost wonder whether Spielberg goes back and forth himself about how interested he is in the movie, because I feel like there are some moments when he's really on point and he's doing what he does best, and then there are other moments that are kind of like he's sort of phoning it in. I mean, even him phoning it in is better than 95% of all of the directors, but still,
Right.
The boat chase is pretty lame, and the crawling around in the catacombs stuff is pretty lame, and it seems like he gets interested once Connery shows up, but then he decides he wants to make his comedy with Connery, which I get on one hand, but boy, by the time for me, like once Henry thinks that Indy goes off the cliff and dies, and you have that sadness and that reunion, and then from then on, like the rest of the movie is just I'm right there, and I think the movie is right on all cylinders.
Yeah. I think you've summed up our entire show so far. Our ups and downs with this movie.
Speaking of Spielberg and his comedy ear, this little plug for our Patreon show. We haven't recorded it yet as we're recording this, but I think it will have aired by the time this show airs. We're going to be talking about the Spielberg comedy masterpiece 1941 on the Patreon show, and I cannot wait to hear Gerry's and Tom's reactions to the comedy stylings of that movie.
Yeah,
I just think that when you put a guy with a ventriloquist dummy on a Ferris wheel, and it's just instantly going to be comedically great. I must have seen that movie 6 times though when it came out. I mean, wow. I was crazy about it. Between that and the Blues Brothers, it was just all the screaming that you could ever want as a teenage kid. So
awesome.
I have a soft spot for that movie, I guess.
Yeah.
I expect to like it. We'll see what happens. But how will I feel about minute 105 of Last Crusade? Let's find out. This is the one that begins with Indy observing a lion statue on his way into the tunnel, and it ends with Henry Jones intoning that only the penitent man shall pass.
So we get these kind of high-pitched, scary strings here, and they sound a lot like the sounds we get when the Ark ghosts fly out in Raiders. And I think this is another bookend to the beginning of our saga here.
Nice.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier this week, Pete, and I agree. I really like that. How it is reminiscent of Indy going into the Chachapoyan temple, or walking up steps, and there's a ominousness to it, and it's actually really cool. And I like what you said. Is like one was just his own greed or avarice, and now it's let's find out what you believe. There's somebody he cares about that he needs to rescue. So it actually is brilliant.
Yeah, the stakes are super high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when he walks up the stairs, I mean, this happens a little bit later in a minute, but he's illuminated by a glow as he's walking up the stairs, and it's again reminiscent of him walking into approaching the idol. There's this sort of glow that comes onto his face from the idol, and in this, the bookend, the opposite end of the 3 movies, his face is also illuminated in this kind of golden light, but this time it's not for something he's seeking for his own gain, but he's doing it to help. It's the glow of life that is leading him. So it's kind of a nice, the trilogy has made sort of a nice progression here, I think.
And Spielberg makes a real effort to put us right into his head. There's a lot of direct point of view shots where we're seeing exactly what he sees, and we are placed exactly where he's placed,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we see, as he's standing there, can we see the groove that the giant blades come through? Like
Not
on the
yet.
wall of the rock? I feel like there's I'm looking at a line, like he's standing right next to that line.
There is a line there, yeah.
Yeah,
right behind the lady with the praying lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is.
It's weird. You can see it in a bunch of shots.
Yeah.
And it's like you'd think that people would see exactly what was about to happen, and they've seen it happen twice now with these 2 Hatay soldiers.
Yeah, something's going to come at me at
It
head
doesn't seem
height.
that
Maybe I
mysterious
should-
at this point.
Yeah.
I think there's been more volunteers, because we have, so one Hatay soldier was like an Ichabod Crane type, right? That dude with the socks for bodies, for body. And then now we have these 2 guys who they're basically Mo and Joe googly heads off. And they're sitting there just so that should be 3 cadavers.
Wait, why should that be 3? This was the second guy, Phil. I thought, and my note just said Mo and Joe Googly Eyes for Jer, which is awesome. Because they kind of like in Mo and Joe, they're embracing themselves in death forever.
Yeah.
But I think the second guy is the guy we just saw get his head cut off that landed on top of his friend.
But here's what I don't get. So the first guy I don't see he's not holding his head like he was.
That's right.
Oh.
Yeah.
He was holding it like the Haunted Mansion at Disney World.
Oh.
Yeah, the very first guy had his own head next to him, unless it was someone else's head.
And it just got up and left.
Well, who knows how many Hete soldiers have volunteered?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Also, there's a lot of blood here now. I never noticed before.
Oh, yeah, wait a minute. I feel funny. Yeah, I feel funny about that. That's not okay.
Why? Wait, what?
No, you can't. You let's be consistent. We saw, two decapitations, or a post decapitation and then a decapitation. Mm-hmm. There should be blood everywhere. And then when we didn't see any blood, I said, okay, this is some weird Yahweh, some Yahweh put the paint over the door. Like kind of like, a Yahweh, whatever, slapstick gag. He just kills people for fun. But you guys, it's spiritual is my point. That's why it's like, there's something else going on here. This isn't a regular booby trap that was put together by just a bunch of guys.
Except that, yes, it was.
But then I need blood.
Well, you got some now, but now you're getting anxious. Now that you got blood, you got anxious.
I'm getting
no, but I
anxious
agree. There shouldn't be blood here because we've established that it's like a bloodless thing, but not because of God, because it's a PG-13 movie in 1989.
But then show it. Then do it a different way. Don't show a complete body with the neck poured on the ground and no blood.
That works.
Unless the blood all poured out right here and there was none left when the head went rolling.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
I'm just saying I either want no blood or let's have blood. Mm-hmm. Either is fine with me.
No, it is a little weird that there's blood here.
Yeah.
And there wasn't blood before.
Yeah.
Do you think there was any pressure to after Temple of Doom being so bloody and scary to just back off of all of that for this one?
I totally think so. Yeah. I mean, whether it was pressure or just, it sounds like Spielberg was just like, let's just back this up. Let's have a nice fun romp for the family after Temple of Doom, and yeah, I'm like seeing like a headless body with no blood. That's in that mindset that makes total sense to me. Like, it's kind of grisly and weird, but it's not like disturbing,
Yeah, I don't need Saw 5. You know what I mean?
Right.
Let's pick one a little more mildly realistic. That's all.
All right.
Does Indy have the Grail Diary? He has it in his hand now, right?
Yeah.
So was he carrying it all along? I mean, it's Henry's.
Yeah.
But he got it back from Elsa. He took it back from Elsa. Is that the last time we saw it?
No, he had it on the Zeppelin. Henry had it on the Zeppelin when they were looking at it.
Henry had it on the Zeppelin, but we don't see Henry ever give it to him, do we?
I don't think so.
Did he go to Henry after they shot him?
Yeah,
Did Indy go right to him? Maybe he takes it there.
Maybe Indy's so used to stealing from dead people, like his fingers collapsed on his shoulder. He just reaches into his pocket and is like, yoink.
Sorry, Dad, it's a reflex.
I don't understand why Indy just didn't like club Donovan over the head and then put on Donovan's uniform.
Right. Sort of an MO.
Just parade around as Donovan.
Why doesn't Indy just like pick up one of those headless bodies and just toss it forward into the tunnel to see what happens?
Or use it as like a shield or something.
Or just to like see, like to observe exactly what happens. Like,
what's it going to take?
Yeah. Something cut this guy's head off. Let's see what it is.
That's genius. No. I don't know why Donovan didn't. Why doesn't he expect Indy's head to come bowling balled out?
Yeah.
Like 11 seconds from now.
Right.
Why does he think Indy is going to be able to conquer this?
Well, because I think he just assumes Indy's conquered two amazing things already, like the Ark and the Sankara stone. So he's probably figures, he's probably got a pretty
and
good
the
shot.
dinosaur's egg. Don't forget the dinosaur's egg.
And the dinosaur's egg.
And the peacock's
Does it-
pubis or whatever it was.
Oh,
Yeah. What was it? The gold statues of Ikon?
Oh, right, yeah, in the comic book.
Oh,
from
yeah.
the comic book? God, what have you guys brought me to? How
Sorry,
low
Jared.
can I?
We're having
I'm
fun.
referencing the comic book.
Good times.
Does you know what? Does Donovan even know that Indy got the Sankara stones? I mean, Indy doesn't have anything to show for it.
Mm-hmm.
that's true. But he seems, since he's a regular contributor to the university collection, I'm assuming he knows.
Oh, sure.
Like he knows Marcus and he knows all this, the stories. about
Well,
what
you know
Indy's
what? If Indy's so good at procuring things, you wouldn't need a Donovan. Pete, you mentioned this. Indy's head wound starts bleeding again.
done. Yeah.
And it's actually it's more like a live wound now.
Yeah.
And you know where I'm going to take this. I'm thinking this is his agony. This is his crucible.
Yeah.
It's like Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. Gethsemane?
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, Gethsemane, right?
Guess?
Isn't
Yeah.
isn't that it there, Pete?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, he's so anxious and freaked out that he starts, sweating blood.
I like that.
Well, I mean, you got it. Look, anytime you see, remember I said ever since St. John's in the Outer Banks, you got to bring
Yeah.
up these little Christian things whenever you can.
Well, all those Nazis have got to know what happened the last time, right? When they were monkeying around with the Ark.
Yeah.
So I think everybody's probably got their antennas up. That's why everybody's so quiet, and they're just like letting him do his thing.
Yeah.
And it's also the first time in the whole movie, really, that you hit that supernatural frequency. That we're back to Raiders again. And
Yeah.
it's really like, this is, I mean, for me, it's just super exciting because
Yeah.
we're moving toward the fantastic again, and we've been waiting pretty much for the, there's nothing fantastical really it's happened yet in the movie. So this is
Oh,
it.
that's a good point. Yeah.
Well, we were debating a little bit last minute. Like, Donovan in the previous minute says it's time for you to decide what you believe to Indy. Because, are you going to go get this Holy Grail to save your father? Do you believe that that's going to work? Is this something for you to do? And so do you think, as Indy's going in here, do you think that he's doing this like based, or is faith driving him right now? Or is this just like a kind of practical, I've seen some crazy things and maybe this Grail business will save my dad?
Oh, I think it's faith. He's praying. They're chanting about penitent men. I think it's, I mean, he's not a skeptic anymore, right? He's seen the wrath of God. He's seen supernatural stuff already in his career, and his dad is dying. I think that he's probably I think his loins are as girded as they're ever going to be, at this point.
I would agree with you, except that at the beginning of this movie, he seems very, like, he literally scoffs when he gets to, he's like reading the tablet in Donovan's office and like, oh, everlasting life, whatever. And, he's kind of reset again at the beginning of the movie from the last one, like where he's kind of a huge skeptic.
But maybe it's like there are no atheists in foxholes. Like there are no
Exactly,
atheists
yeah.
in
Yeah.
Grail temples.
Yeah. Right. Well, there better be a God who can save my dad. Like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I also, like, after you said that, Mitch, now I want them to cut back to all the crowd standing behind them. They all have their eyes tightly squeezed closed.
That's hilarious.
Well, they're not moving. They are dead still, and they reinforce that when it cuts back to that really wide, low shot with the jackboots in the foreground and the girl on the left, and Indy turns around to look back towards his dad, and nobody is doing anything. Nobody's moving.
Yeah. Well, and talking about not moving, we've got these statues, these two giant statues of these women praying. And at first I thought, is this a hint? But then I thought, this is actually kind of a mean trick, because you've got these two praying women, but even though they're praying, they're standing up. So, like, if you were to emulate these women, if you were to be penitent by emulating these women, you would end up decapitated.
Oh.
Yeah. Has Indy ever been penitent? Because I'm not sure that the guy would know what to do. Or even if he knows what it means. I mean, can you think of a time in any of these movies where he's penitent?
he seems to, at the end of Temple of Doom, he seems to have like a weird moment of like humility in the face of magic rocks or something when he's talking to the shaman, which again didn't ring true to me at the time, but I was also fed up with that movie by then, even though I like it again now. But yeah, that's the only thing I can think of.
For that brief moment that he thinks Marion's dead in Raiders, he's feeling pretty bad about what he just did, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I thought that's what came to mind. I mean, here's the definition is feeling or showing sorrow and regret for having done wrong. Repentant. Yeah. And there is like maybe a microsecond in Raiders where he does apologize to Marion.
By the way, that's not the definition that they give you in this movie right now, like in the next minute. Like he specifically says the penitent man is humble before God and I should be kneeling. Which is not the same as like being regretful or remorseful or something. That's a little weird.
Well, I think if you're regretful, you come before God in a humble manner.
I guess so.
Like,
yeah. It's a person who repents their sins or wrongdoings.
Yeah.
And seeks forgiveness. So you're obviously going to, when you're seeking forgiveness, you're going to be, kneeling or prostrate. I always have to think really hard when I say that word. Prostrate.
Yeah, me too.
So, but then, what sucks and it's so tough about that scene in Raiders is I do believe that he's penitent there. But he then just kind of brushes the whole thing off and he goes, it's a worthless bronze medallion. You got it? Give it up. Cough it up. Cough it up. Cough it up. Cough it up. So I don't know how much these things sink in, you know? I agree with you, Tommy. Maybe with the shaman.
Yeah, there's just that one line.
But it also, what's crazy is about being penitent is it assumes a self-awareness.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if I don't think Indy thinks he ever does wrong.
But don't you think the fact that his dad is dying, it's such a shocking moment, that maybe he's scared that he never has been penitent and he's doing everything he can right now to be as penitent as he possibly can be because he knows his dad is dying. And you get those two shots before he walks into the cave where he looks back to his dad once and then we cut back and it's super clear that he's concentrating. He's looking at his dad. He feels bad about his dad. So I don't know. It's Indy's never been where he is right now.
Yeah. This is like a moment for him to just cast off everything, like any ego or bravado or anything, and he's just concentrating on saving his dad.
Yeah.
When he opens the diary, does the little Post-it note say "Wrath of God"?
Like literally?
Yes, like literally. He opens it up. First of all, I'm wondering, does he open it up to, the first booby trap?
You're right. Yeah, he's got his thumb in there.
But there's like a blue little chicken scratch paper in there on top. And the first thing he says is "Wrath of God."
No, he says "Breath of God."
Then does he say "Breath of God"?
Yeah, that's that. Remember on the Zeppelin, they were like, he was the
"Breath of God."
The booby
that's
traps
right. Okay.
number 3. The first one was the "Breath of God."
In my notes, it says "Wrath of God" too.
Oh, really?
So I made the same mistake you did. But "Breath of God," you're right. That makes sense because they've said it already once, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, now I can't make fun of Gerry as much because then you made the same mistake. Oh, well.
That's why I'm here, Gerry. Just to have your back at every turn.
No, I love it. Thank you. I want to listen to that again. I want to listen to that. I'm going to double check that one. Not right now, but
all right.
It certainly is a bit of a Wrath of God-y minute. I mean, we got a couple of decapitated innocents.
Yeah. I have a lot to say about this, but I feel like I should wait until like booby traps are sprung and stuff.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
all this booby trap stuff is really confusing to me. Or it's confusing to me when it's supposedly a supernatural thing happening, which it just plain isn't.
Okay, so I have a theory here, you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
It all connects to this one shot, the really wide shot where we see Indy really small in the frame, and the camera booms up, and it sort of reveals that is that King Arthur? Who is that? Is that who that's supposed to be?
We think that there's a few of them, and I think they're all the original Grail Knights, the three brothers.
The Knights of the Grail.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So what I think is really amazing in that moment is that Indy is reduced in the frame to just about as small as we've ever seen him in the movie. Like maybe at the very, very beginning when it was young Indy and he's really dinky against the rocks and everything, maybe he's smaller there. But Harrison Ford Indy, he's really small in this frame.
Yeah.
And there's this move, and there are several moves. There's several times the camera booms up in this movie. But it's really interesting to me because it makes me always think about how the movie is so much bigger than Indy that and I think that's always when, for me, that's always like the best movies are where the movie is bigger than the movie star, and the movie star doesn't dominate the film because he's part of a larger reality and a larger universe. But what's kind of interesting is that there's this very showy camera move with this boom all the way up to put the knight in the foreground.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes me think about the fact that the only person that's bigger than Indiana Jones at this moment is Steven Spielberg. that in a way he's reminding us that he's there, and he's bigger than everybody, and he's directing our gaze. And so I don't know. He is, because it's a very obvious camera move. You know, you can't miss it. If you don't know anything about camera movement, you're still going to see it.
Yeah, that's nice.
Right.
I think this is, by the way, now you got me thinking. Maybe this is King Arthur because he's got a crown.
Oh, wow.
He does have a crown.
Yeah. And I don't think a knight would have a crown like that.
Wow.
Do you think that there are actual people in there?
Wait, in the statues?
Stop laughing.
I didn't know.
No, yeah. Like you could sometimes
Like
you
House
go,
of Wax?
Not like House of Wax. Like some people are buried like that.
Jerry's thinking
They're
about the
buried
comic book
with
again.
like a
Yeah, he
almost
is.
like the dead. No, like a death mask type of thing, or like they're buried, like they're buried in that sort of.
Vertically. They're buried vertically.
Yeah. They're not buried.
Yeah.
Not buried.
Yeah, interned.
Or maybe-
Entombed.
Well, as if you've never seen Raiders and Mummies standing.
It's very
I
true.
guess so.
It's very true.
Or like guys in carbonite.
That's true.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that.
Well done. Well played.
Yeah, that was very good. I owe you one, Pete.
Stop helping Jerry.
Yeah.
Well, Mitch, you just said that you said something interesting about the movie being bigger than Indiana Jones and bigger than Harrison Ford. Do you think that that's part of the reason that Sean Connery shines so much in this movie is because it's not like a vehicle for Sean Connery where he gets to be Sean Connery,
Yeah,
but he's
absolutely.
he's an actor playing a character in a bigger movie?
Yeah. And that's when Connery is always at his best,
Yeah.
when the movie is somehow bigger than him. And so when he comes in, he doesn't just, suck all the air out of the movie. And sometimes in some movies he does,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what movie stars do. It's the same way with, like, I'm not the biggest fan of Bruce Willis, but when Bruce Willis is in Die Hard or Pulp Fiction, it's great because the movie's bigger than him and he becomes this, this part of it. But even Red October, which is just this amazing movie, it's bigger than Connery. And Connery's about as big as you get in there, but he's not as big as those submarines, So there's something about him when he's in these kind of films. The Untouchables is another great example.
Yeah.
And even though when he's got the leading role, like in Robin and Marian or The Man Who Would Be King or The Wind and the Lion, which are all great Connery performances, the movie's bigger than him. And so it makes it all seem, I don't know, really special. And so when you have those moments when then you see him vulnerable or you see him heroic or whatever, it has extra power to it, I think.
Oh, I like that.
Or when he dies. once in a while. He's one of those guys, he was never afraid to die as an actor. He dies in a lot of movies. And
See, I was asking that question
Steve McQueen.
when he got shot. Early, a couple minutes ago, I was saying, when have we ever seen Sean Connery mortally wounded? But and I can only come up with the Untouchables and Robin and Marion, and that's it. And I'm sure there are more.
And so he dies at the end of the Anderson tape. Spoiler!
Oh my gosh, that's right.
He dies at the end of The Man Who Would Be King.
Oh yeah.
He dies at the end of The Next Man.
Wow.
Let me think.
We're just spoiling.
I know there's a couple more, but he was he may die at the end of The Offense. I can't remember.
Oh wow.
But he's like, he was never afraid of that, which is, I always think that's the real testament of a true movie star, fearless movie star that goes beyond movie star to actor, is those guys who really aren't afraid to die at the end of a movie.
Right.
Well, that's interesting because, and I was going to bring this up later, but Alison Doody begged Spielberg not to make her character die. And she even tried to help, she even tried to convince him to rewrite it in a way that her character would be saved at the end.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah. She really
Wait, and joins the Joneses off in the sunset type thing?
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, we'll
paddy wagon
Goes
comes
to
in front of Petra and takes
Yeah.
her.
yeah. Well, we'll get there when we get to the minute. But she did not. She absolutely did not want her character to die, and she begged Spielberg to keep her alive.
Well, there's a lot of that. That's funny, the whole story of the whole way that egos play into this. Was it Will Smith that said that he wouldn't. The reason he didn't want to do Django was because he didn't get to kill the main bad guy.
Oh,
Huh.
that sounds a little familiar.
And so,
yeah.
Yeah. So some actors believe that they're protecting their brand in some way like that, or their vanity won't let them. That's the other great thing about Connery is like when he started doing the movies where he didn't have to wear the toupee. It was just so great. He's like, look at my bald head. I don't care. I'm Sean Connery. It doesn't matter.
Right.
And so again, it's something to do with that kind of fearlessness. And also he's one of those actors who's not afraid to look stupid, like to play characters who have a stupid part to their personality, a foolishness. It's very gentle foolishness that we've got with Henry. But he's flawed.
Sure.
But certainly when you look at Robin and Marion, there's moments where he just doesn't get it. And same with The Man Who Would Be King. There's moments where he just can't get out of his own way.
Right.
And not every actor wants to play those kind of roles.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, Sean Connery's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad he's awesome too, because through the 80s, well, not through the 80s, but through the 90s, sort of after this and The Untouchables, there were a lot of movies where he was just Sean Connery in a movie and just strutting around as Sean Connery, not doing much, it seemed like.
Yeah.
And that was kind of his legacy for a while. But then if you go back, before this and before The Untouchables, and including these two, it's he's an actor and he does weird, cool stuff. And yeah, he's a character in a movie, and he's awesome.
And I think Red October and The Russia House are his two last really great roles. And then after that, he really did kind of become this parody of himself, or he just didn't make the right choice in the movie, or didn't have the right director taking care of him, or didn't have John Milius writing his speeches for him. So because that's the other thing. He would hire John Milius to redo all of his dialogue in a lot of movies.
That's awesome.
Wow.
And you can hear it in Red October. That's Milius.
I really like how Indy keeps walking and incanting. The penitent man will pass.
Yeah.
It's a very it almost seems pilgrim-like.
Or he's cramming for a final or something. He's got his notes. He's the only note he has, and he's just saying it over and over again.
I agree.
It made me think of what they're pilgrims in an unholy land or something. Like there's something almost there's a penance to it.
Yeah.
Or he's walking and he's just saying the same thing over, almost like a penance.
Yeah.
Where it's now go say 50 Hail Marys and
sort of
that sort of thing.
It's like those Russian guys, the Russian ascetics who would walk and say the Jesus prayer. With every in-breath and out-breath, and they would do this for years and years and years. That's all they would do.
Right.
And you get that great shot of Henry helping him along. profile,
Yeah.
dramatic push into him, and it's a huge profile close up, and he's saying it as well. And so it's got real. It's like the power of Christ compel you in The Exorcist. Or something. These guys aren't fooling around.
Yeah. There's something very old timey Catholic about it, like old timey, like medieval.
Yeah. Chanting and whatnot.
I got a little kind of a Gerry off the wall question here, but keep it in mind for the next couple of minutes. Are Indy and Henry linked like E.T. and Elliot?
Of course, I thought that too. I did, yeah.
Because they kind of
if...
keep completing each other's thoughts here. In
Yeah.
kind of a strange manner that'll keep occurring.
Since their hug, they've been.
You know what though? Then they're
Yeah.
both like, you did that with Elsa?
Oh
That
God.
with you? Yeah. I don't know if I like this, Peter.
Yeah, you guys are gross.
They both answer yes to Dr. Jones.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Both,
Yep.
and in that scene, they keep repeating or saying things simultaneously. So there's this tilt up to Marcus from that dramatic close up of Henry, and Marcus looks completely out of his element at this moment. But I don't know if you guys have talked about this, but is it possible that Marcus has actually gone senile?
We are grasping at any natural earthbound reason why he could be so nuts. Like he has
dementia.
Head,
Yeah.
he's dehydrated.
Dementia has
he's got
come
heat
up
stroke.
a couple times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Mitch, please continue.
No, I mean, it's the only thing that I can get at. But when I started watching it, like this last time I watched it, I was like, I'm just going to watch Marcus and see whether I can make a case for him having dementia. And I think it's happened. And you know what? The dehydration and the being out of his element and all of those things probably make it even worse, because that's how dementia works. The more unfamiliar you are, the harder it is to get along. And at least for me, that makes me like the movie better and likes Marcus better, because he's not being played completely for a fool. Now, I don't know how we're going to help out with the situation with Sala, but at least with Marcus, we can blame it on something.
Well, one question I've got about Marcus is, I wonder if any of this, and I know some of this was written for him to be like this, but I wonder if any of this is a factor, a function of him of Denham Elliott being really sick when they made most of this movie.
I don't know. That's interesting.
Because he was kind of, he died not too long after this.
It's interesting because in this shot, the shot that we're talking about now, like we're with him sitting over Henry, he's the most Marcus-like that he's been in like the last half hour of the movie or something. He's just kind of,
I agree.
He's disheveled, but he's concerned for his friend. There's not much going on
for
here
his friend.
behind something. Beyond like just simple concern and worry. But like a minute ago he was cross-eyed and he was doing cartwheels and
He's not asking what's all the red stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I mean he's.
Why do the bowling balls have faces?
Mitch, I had a question. You mentioned Sala. Do you feel like we're getting an attenuated Sala here?
An attenuated Sala?
Yeah, like are we getting like?
Is that served with a twist or? What is that exactly?
Like we're getting like a powder puff silly Sala.
Yeah, over the course of the movie?
Over the course of just Sala in the Last Crusade.
Yes, Sala in the Last Crusade is a bumbling, lightweight, comedic something, and it's sad because I like Sala.
Yeah,
I mean, I think there's a, and I don't know whether this is is this the screenplay? Is this Jeffrey Boehm, whom I'm. Other than The Dead Zone, I'm not a huge fan of Jeffrey Boehm's movies. I find most of his humor and most of his films falls flat. Sorry, I don't even love the Lethal Weapon stuff that he did or Lost Boys. But so I don't know whether this is just like the perfect storm of Spielberg's attitude and Jeffrey Boehm, and that we now are going to start playing everybody kind of for laughs. It's not, but it certainly seems like this is. It's more Moonraker than From Russia with Love. Let me just say that.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I do think Sala comes off a lot better than Marcus, at least. I mean, he's
Yeah.
got solid
does.
moments throughout the movie, but yeah, they're balanced with like some weird weird specific buffoonery.
And then it's that moment, the whole business with run, and then he runs into the truck, and it's like a Hope and Crosby movie. It's like the road picture with these two guys in it. And it's just like, oh, I didn't really sign up for that, but okay.
Yeah. If you think about Sala on his deck with Indy and Raiders, like his first scene in the movie, and he's like, there's not to be messed with, not of this earth, man is not meant to disturb it.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that's not the same guy in this movie. That guy's got it all together. Yeah. He's cool. He's got some weight to him, and
yeah. It's
even
weird.
in his goofy moment in Raiders, which is like, ass, very dangerous. You go first. It's funny.
It's human.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's human. And he does that like, remember when they look into the well of the souls? But it's funny. But you're like, it's funny because he is capable.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, so it's human, it's kind of...
The humor all comes out of who these people are versus having it imposed upon them. And that's the problem with the movie and the gags that you guys have talked about. It's this constant imposition of ha-ha-ha moments, gags being shoved on top of the movie versus it coming from, inside of who the characters are and what the situation is. And it may just be that the adventure they're on is just not that... it's not that inspired. I mean, I think we're right now at an incredibly inspired place.
Yeah.
And I actually, there are moments that are quite inspired, but in general, I'd even argue that there are more inspired moments in Temple of Doom, just in terms of, just actual visceral, when Willie's not yelling, there are some really, really interesting moments.
Yeah. You're my new favorite guest, by the way. You just put that perfectly.
Yes, you said that perfectly. I was just going to say, here we are, what is it, minute 105 or something? I finally got that knot out of my back.
Yeah.
When you said that, Mitch, it was beautiful.
I mean, we're back to Raiders. We're back to what we loved Raiders about.
And you said, the gags being imposed upon the characters or the script or the movie. Yeah, as opposed to coming from an internal place of the characters themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what we needed to hear.
That's
stupid.
God, it's like
stamp.
I can breathe again.
Jerry and I are hugging.
I wasn't sure what it was.
Thank God we've saved him. I assume you guys talked about the fact that, because I haven't heard every episode, about Connery and Denholm Elliott working together in Robin and Marion. Did you guys mention that?
No. I think I'm the only one who's seen it, or maybe Pete.
That was another moment, another thing, just sort of from a meta. Looking at this movie, seeing those two guys together was kind of great because they're very good together in Robin and Marion.
Yeah, I need to see that again. It's been a long time.
It's a very underrated movie, I think.
It is. Yeah.
And the fact that he worked with Connery, it's funny. There's these 2 or 3 directors that he'll work with more than once, and I think that's probably because most directors probably couldn't handle him. But it's interesting how he worked with Richard Lester. A couple of different times, and Sidney Lumet was another one he worked. I think he did 4 or 5 movies with him. So there are certain directors who seem to have, and Michael Crichton he liked very much, and Crichton actually wanted him to play Monroe in Congo, the big game hunter. He wrote the novel with Connery in mind for that.
Oh wow!
Well, now since you're genius. And you worked out my back. How do you So, what do you think about the Harrison Ford and Sean Connery, just the father-son thing? You think it works really well? Is that the best part of the movie, or
the idea of it is the best part of the movie? I think sometimes they're really great together. I think other times, because it's so jokey, they're just like they don't feel like. It's not what I wanted to see, I mean, I think that there's, and I know that's partially because Henry's kind of this eccentric, doddering kind of character, so he's not going to really be able to, go toe to toe and fight with Indy the way that Indy does, But I mean, sometimes I like I said, I love that moment when he feels like he's lost Indy, and that's really sweet, sweet and honest versus. I don't know, some of the stuff when they're tied together in the chairs. I kind of hate that moment with the lighter. I mean, and him trying to blow it. And it's just like, I want to see him better, you know? I want to see him a cooler guy, you know?
Yeah.
Or if he's going to be funny, then let's have the funny be like he doesn't get it funny. Like in The Wind and the Lion, he's so funny because he just thinks he is the greatest guy who has ever ridden a horse and commanded armies. And Candice Bergen just like is showing him up at every turn because he's just, he's just kind of this dumb alpha male.
Right.
And he's willing to play it that way. So I don't know. You can't blow out a Zippo lighter. It doesn't work.
Yeah, they're just
He
their
should know that.
relationship in the movie is kind of a microcosm of what's good and bad about the entire movie. Because there's a lot of like Zippo lighters, but there's also a lot of like genuine both comedy and emotion with them. It doesn't always happen, but when it does, it's really good.
Yeah, well, the scene with the vase, that scene shouldn't be about the vase because it is. He's really glad to see Indy. He's really glad that Indy's there. And then the fact that it turns into this vase business, and it's not like he's hiding something. Like, that would be interesting, too. If you watch that scene and you're like, oh, Henry just can't bring himself to say something, so he's going to talk about the vase instead. But that's not what happens in that scene. That scene is about, we're going to make this stupid joke about, he's too preoccupied realizing that it's a fake Ming vase and then it makes Indy look stupid because Indy like thought he was getting something from his dad, and then he's not. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's frustrating. It's really frustrating.
Are you doing Indy 5?
If they contact
Can
me to
you?
fix all this-
Please
Can you do
let
Indy
me.
5?
Would somebody let me? Yeah, no kidding.
Do we have anything else for this minute?
No, I think that's it. I'm just glad I got to talk about Marcus. I want to make sure that we feel better about Marcus.
I've been trying. Yeah, it's hard to reconcile them, but if you squint really hard and convince yourself of some things, it's sort of okay.
You know what? The best you can get is if you go with, if you have your senility coupon, you can use that. You go, that, or he got clubbed over the head in Venice and he never really recovered.
Yeah,
which is really sad.
I'll buy that too.
But I mean, you have to tell yourself that, just to go to sleep at night.
Right.
It's fine.
We're good for the rest of the movie, Jerry. So just relax. I want you to if you need to put a little ice on it, that's okay. Ice your back a little bit, and you are gonna be great for the rest of this.
Yep. No more bumps in the road.
Thank you. No, I feel better. Speaking about bumps in the road, hey, the machine's bumping around.
Whoa.
Yes. Coming alive. This just in from
Prosthetic Christy Porter.
I don't know. Yes, my sister. This just in from Professor Christy Porter. What does the lion symbolize?
Oh, good question.
What would Carl Jung say? I gave a lecture today on Carl Jung.
So she should know. What's the answer?
Yes. She says here, give me 3 words about the lion. Okay, I think what she's getting at. Carl Jung. Pete, do you know this one? Well, today you're the second smartest guy on call. About the collective unconsciousness. Yeah, the part of the mind that we can't access.
Well, I know about that, but I don't know about the 3 words you're looking for.
Well, she was kind of saying, like, why do they use a lion? And I think I know why they use a lion. I think that lion is just there. He's using his Jacobson's organ. He's smelling everybody who's coming in.
Didn't they earlier say the lion's den? We're going into the lion's den.
Oh yeah.
Well, that was about Berlin.
Yeah. I know it was about Berlin, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It seems to me that this is the. Can we go past this lion? Because Indy is definitely looking at the lion. It's interesting because it's a reverse shot, and it's a point of view shot. He seems to be thinking about,
That's by the way, I just want to say that's not a medieval lion. That's a Jurassic Park lion.
Yeah.
Well, our friend Jonathan Carlisle had a really fascinating thing on Facebook recently where he was talking about how all the things that happen here at the end are prefigured on the train at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things is that Indy faces the lion, and that Indy walks, falls down that little gangway, which is kind of like the leap of faith that's coming up. And it's fascinating. He falls through the roof of the train car, which is him, coming up on these letters. And it's interesting that all these things kind of play into this. But I like especially the lion part.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, I like what you said, Pete, about, or maybe I said it. I liked what I said.
That was brilliant.
they get, maybe the lions are from Venice.
Yeah.
And they say, they stole them. I actually really like the whole Middle Eastern / European thing, like the hybrid hodgepodgey cave. Like we're in a desert, but we have these knights. I don't know. It's a really.
But that
cool
makes me think
set.
that maybe a lot of this stuff was not built by the knights, but that was built by, people, 800, 900 years earlier. Maybe those are lions of Judah or something. Like these aren't.
Yeah.
This isn't medieval iconography here.
Sure. Thanks, Lazarus the Graphos. Yeah, we're painting everything all the time.
Yeah.
They had lions at Mycenae. Lions go back all the way.
Oh,
That's true.
The Lion's Gate is there guarding the entrance to that castle.
Yeah.
Well, Mitch, thank you so much for joining us today. You've you fixed Jared's back. You made me feel better about things.
Great.
I think you probably infuriated Pete, but that's okay. He needs to be infuriated some more.
Well, let me come back for Crystal Skull.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we don't get a lot of that.
Well, I'd like to come back. I'd like to come back before the refrigerator, if possible. But yes.
Oh, okay. We'll see what we can do. You can take my place. No, just kidding.
No, it's great. Thank you so much.
Oh, totally. Is there anything you want the people to know? Places they can find you? Things you're working on?
There's not much to be said except Jetpack Pictures on Vimeo, I guess, if you want to see what we're up to with music videos, commercials, promos, all sorts of other stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Check that out. Check us out. Hey, if you're going to be lonely with us not over the weekend, you should go over to Patreon, patreon.com/Indiana Jones Minute. And you can join us over there. And for a low recurring fee, you can get access to our bonus show, Anything Goes. Where, as we mentioned, we've talked about other movies like E.T., Jaws, Close Encounters, some indie comic books. We're getting ready to tackle, as we record this, 1941. So yeah, join us over there and help support the show, and we will love you. And we'll love you either way when you come back next week for minute 106 of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade here on the Indiana Jones Minute.
Manones!
Jesus.
Did you get it? Somebody said Mycenae. Like Manoans, right? Manoans!
Argonauts! Argonauts!
What else do you get to say? Manoans?
That's true.
Manoans? I got you, Pete.
I didn't even sure yelling. That's awesome. I love that.